I wanted to make a quick part 2 for prepping for the hometown quilt. And so after I got all of my packets, I have these little plastic bins that I just buy at Hobby Lobby. And I keep all of the packets for a project so that I can pull and keep everything organized. When I'm not working on the project, I also keep my book in the front, and I'll keep the CD in the back. And normally I will keep fabric, my extra fabric, in the bin in the back. However, because I bought the fat quarter bundle along with some yardage, I have a lot of fabric, and so I have that in a separate bag that I have. I'm not adding it to this little basket. And then also I wanted to show my threads. I have these little boxes that I keep right next to my machine, just to the right. I have, a couple of things like a little seam roller, tape. I have my little screwdriver, some pens, things that I use often. And so I keep that right by my machine. Now I'm going to jump to my computer and I want to show you how I determined what thread I was going to use, because the project calls for a thread called Robeson Anton Super Bright Polyester. I had never heard of that, and so I had to Google and try to find a conversion, and I was not able to find a conversion straight from Robeson to Glide, which is what I use mostly, and I wanted to see, if I could use most of the thread that I have. And so I was able to find a conversion from Robeson to the Pantone color, and then I used the Pantone to Glide conversion. So let me show you how I determined the thread I'm going to use, as well as some information on the actual project and some updates that are available. So what I did first to find the thread that I needed is I just took their thread chart and I wrote down all of the Robeson colors, and there's 19. So I just wrote down, their number, the name, and here I just wrote what number it was in the directions. So I tried to Google the Robeson Anton to Glide conversion so that I could just go straight from one to another, and I was not able to find anything online. And so I just here's where I searched Robeson Anton thread to Glide. I clicked on a lot of them to try to find it. I wasn't able to find what I needed, but I found eventually the thread exchange. And so this says, just Robeson Anton color conversion charts. So I clicked on that and it gave me the Pantone color to the Robeson Anton polyester, and that is the thread that is in the directions. And so there's a lot of the Robeson Anton to Floriani or Isacord or Coates, Madeira, but there wasn't anything for Glide. So I thought, well, let me look at the Pantone colors. And so I clicked on this, and it lists the Pantone color and then the Robeson color. And so what I did is I just went down, and looked for these colors. I kind of just tried to familiarize myself with the names. And so I just, I had to do it several times because, of course, I couldn't remember everything. But I just scrolled down, and for example, here's maize. And this project uses maize. And the Pantone color is 134C. I'm not really sure what the C means, but 134. So I wrote maize 134C under Pantone, and I just did that with all the ones that I could find. Now you can see that there are 3 that I could not find in this chart, and so I just didn't worry about those. So then I just Googled, I think, Pantone to Glide conversion, And I was able to find a list, and I think I just found this on the Filtech, which is Filtech is the company that makes glide thread. And so I think I found this one right on their site. And so these names and numbers are the glide colors, but it has that Pantone. And so I just looked through this to find these numbers. And so I just scrolled down again. I had to do it several times. And let's see if I can find one here. So here's one. It's grayed out, but if you look at the Robeson color ivory, the Pantone that it matches is 9181. And so in this Pantone list, I found 9181, and that is Glide Color Latte with the number. So I just scrolled through and did that and found most of them. Again, you can see I have several that I couldn't find on this list. But what I did notice that I didn't know, I mean, I don't really know much about Pantone, is that the glide thread actually has the Pantone color in all of their thread colors. So the Robeson has, let's look at this Glendale 9153. The Pantone is 577. Well, the glide color that matches is 6577. On the spruce, the Pantone is 576. That matches with willow, which also has 576. Glide, it looks like for the most part, has that Pantone number in their thread color number. Now, I'm not sure, what designates coming up with, for example, a 6 at the beginning or a 2 or an 8. But for example, that maize that we looked up is 134 in Pantone, and the buttercup is 80134. So I was able to get a lot through those two conversion charts. The other ones that I couldn't find, I just wrote down what I was looking for as far as, this, for example, the Lucerne was one I couldn't find, or Lucrine is a dark brown. I just picked a dark brown that I had. It's probably a little darker than that. There was a light pink and I think one of the blues, but I really couldn't find anything in glide, so I found some Floriani that looked like it might match. And so I took some of the fabric that will have stitching in these colors that I didn't have, and I just took it to the store and did my best. And so I came up with a list of about 20 colors, and that may change as I'm getting ready to stitch out depending on the fabric, and I'll let you know what I end up using. There were several that probably don't need to be different colors. For example, the wildflower and the candy apple are very similar. I have a couple of browns. I think the camel, and I also have caramel in there. I think I put that with the brunette in case those are very close. So there was a lot that probably you wouldn't need 20 colors, but that's kind of where I'm starting. So that's how I decided on my thread colors, was doing this conversion. And what I also ended up doing that I'm going to print out is I took just a copy of the PDF with all of the thread colors, and I listed the colors that I have decided to use. And I have a picture of them that I use when I do my videos so that I can show which ones that I used. And so again, if that changes, I'll make changes as I'm stitching the houses out. And so I'm going to print this and put this in my book so that I have this, so I know when it calls for one, determine that would be cashmere. And then if for some reason I decide to use another color, that's okay too. One of the most important things to do before starting to stitch this project out is to check to see if there's any updates. So on the inside of your USB case, there will be a date, and mine says August of 24. And so I need to go to the RileyBlakeDesigns.com website to find out if there's any updates I need to do. On the home page, you'll need to come to Machine Embroidery and then scroll down to Project Updates, and this is where any updates will be listed. So you'll need to click on the Hometown Quilt, and that will open the project updates. And so as you scroll down, you need to have that code that was in your USB case to know which updates you need to apply, if any. So the first project update says that if the date on the inside bottom right corner of your package is August 24 or later, these updates have already been applied. So my case is August of 24. So this project update 1, which includes, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 updates, they've already been applied to my USB. So I don't need to worry about those. I can go to the next page. Project update 2 is if the date on the bottom is October 24 or later, these updates have been applied. Now my package again is August 24, so I needed to download these updates. Now some, for example, this topiary house, it says the 8x12 only. Even though I'm doing the 6x10, I went ahead and did all the updates in case I choose to make a larger quilt. I don't have to wonder if, if I already did it or have to come back. So I did all of the updates, whether they were for the 8x12 only or the 6x10, I did them all. So you would just click and it would give you a file to download, and then you would replace that file with the file that you've already downloaded. And so, for example, this second update is for all of the sashing units. So there's 20 of them, and it says for all sashing units. So that's for the 8x12 or the 6x10 size. So when you go to download this, you click on it, and I think it takes you to Dropbox, and you can download all of those. And then you would just need to make sure that you, let's say, delete yours from wherever you have them saved before you add those to your folder or however you organize. And so on this update, it says the embroidery design placement has been corrected. So there must have been some issues with those sashing units, but there were no updates to the instructions on the PDF. And so they were just the files only. Now, with this being said, I stitched a sample of the first sashing block when I was working on how I was going to add batting to my project. And I noticed that some of my stitching stitched over a seam. It's really not supposed to. So I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if I had downloaded these. I thought I had downloaded everything. And so an easy way to tell is to open the file. And so this is my embroidery files folder that is in my Lori Holt folder. And if I come to the sashing blocks, you can see that part of that name right here is U02. I think that maybe means update, and it's the second one. So the first one that had issues, this is the second. So this is an update 02. And so I know that I've updated. And the way that I was able to double check was I clicked on the file, I looked at the file name for the update, and it was the 02. So I knew I had already downloaded that. So when I stitched my sample out and it was a little bit over this fold, I think right here, the stitching went over. It was perfect on the right side. I don't know, I didn't iron or tape or anything when I was doing my flip and fold fabric, and we'll get more into that later. So I think it might have been that I just needed to iron and make these flip and fold fabrics a little bit flatter, but I was just, again, kind of working on the batting. But all of those sashing blocks would need to be updated if you have earlier than October 24th on your USB. Now the next is project update number 3, and this is if you have that code before April of 25. And it looks like the birdhouse, both the 6x10 and 8x12, need to be updated. It says that, here it will tell you what was changed and if there was any instructions to the PDF. It doesn't look like any of the instructions on the PDF have been changed. It just looks like they fixed some of the stitch out, maybe the satin stitch or the placement stitches that they show up here with the sashing. So that's how you find any project updates. And again, you'll need that code that comes in your USB to know which ones you need to do. Now before I start stitching this project out, I am going to make some changes in Embrilliance Essential Software so that I can add batting and background quilting to my blocks.